Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Check. 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 Hello.
Soon it will be
It will.
Christmas Day.
Oh, that makes me all nervous because I have to
No,
finish
it's rough.
decorating.
This will be an outtake.
Okay.
Dun, dun,
Okay.
dun. This will be an outtake. No, it won't. Okay.
Now
Yes.
it will.
No, it won't. It's fine. We could start an episode like
I
this.
wonder
Why
what
the
we
heck
should-
not?
What should
All
we
right. So here's
talk
what
about?
happened.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I
Well,
wanna hear.
well, should I start
Yes.
from the beginning?
Yes. You have to start from the beginning.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Okay. Go on.
So, what had happened was,
What is this about, first
I
of all?
used to work
Okay.
for the Walt Disney Company. Maybe I will again in the future. Probably not after this
Parks
episode.
Division.
Yeah, the Parks Division. Because
I'm just saying
I
you weren't
did-
working for
yes.
the movie studio.
no, obviously not. Yes, I worked at the Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
/ Lake Buena Vista, Florida.
Although you were an
technically.
executive producer for Universal Studios.
I was. That was a nice time. No, I
Yeah,
was not.
okay.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Paramount.
So what had happened was our
Second.
good family friend, Dylan, my brother's best friend, who is now our family. I don't know, however that works. He had done a Disney college program with the Walt Disney World Resort. He was in merchandise for all of his, I think. I'm pretty sure he was in merchandise for all of his. He can correct me if I'm wrong. At least part of his he was. And I was at Villanova at the time, not sure. It was my sophomore year, not sure what to do with my life. And Dylan had either just finished his program or he was ending it, or I don't remember. But basically the topic came up and he said, why don't you do a Disney college program? You love Disney. And that's the only requirement. You're in college, so do the Disney college program. So long story short, I go through the interview process and all that, and I get it.
Well, the
Huzzah.
cool thing was Villanova didn't even have that set
I
up.
literally have just begun this story.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, so how the Disney college program works very briefly is you can intern for the company in a bunch of different roles they have. And a lot of colleges will give you college credit because you can take like classes while you're there and all this stuff. Long story short, at Villanova, they did not have anything like
In
that at the
place.
time.
Yeah.
They did not really accept that. But I worked with one of the advisors, Kate, there, and basically convinced her to create this program so that I could do a Disney college program, stay at Villanova, and I also still took two Villanova classes, I think, that the first semester, and then two the second semester that I was there, and then I was also working and all that stuff. So long story short, I got credit for it, created a program at Villanova. Cool. So my first college program, I worked at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. I was in food and beverage, first at Citricos, which was the most wonderful experience of my life.
You need to
I'm
tissue.
tearing up. No, I'm not actually. I did love it. I remember though, do you remember when I got it and I was like, I can't go. This is way too fancy for me. Do you remember me saying that?
Mhm.
Because maybe we'd been to the Grand Floridian before, like walking around. Yeah, not even.
We never stayed there. I don't think we had ever gone there with you guys.
Yeah.
We always stayed we had stayed at the moderate resorts or the value resorts.
Yeah.
We never stayed at any
I mean,
of the
you could
higher
still
end
walk in the resort, though. You don't have to be staying there to walk. No.
They wouldn't allow riffraffs such as us.
So as you can see, it makes
Wouldn't
sense
admit
why I
that.
felt like I could not belong here when
Yeah.
this was my upbringing. So obviously I went, and wonderful experience, met wonderful people, loved the job itself. I loved specifically about the Grand Floridian. how have I explained this before? The level of service, the standard for everything,
Yeah.
just so high. And they reached that the high level that they had for themselves always. Like it was insane.
And that's for your personality, especially. That's good
Yes.
because that's the way you are.
Yeah.
You know?
I hold myself to high standards. And yeah, that was just the perfect environment for me. So I have a lot of good stories from that. Because here's the thing. So this episode will be a brief,
This is not one of those stories.
and will be briefly like all the positions I had there. But then I have some good stories and I have some bad stories. And I don't know.
I think for anyone who was thinking about doing the Disney College program, like an internship, it would be enlightening. And they would sort
eye-opening.
Yeah, well, it would be cool because you learn about obviously the good things, but the things that are not going to be so good, you know.
Yeah, well,
I think it takes a strong person to do it. You know,
that's one of the things I remember once I got it that I was, because at the time there wasn't TikTok or anything like that. There was obviously social media. This was only in 2015, but the information that I had on the college program, there wasn't a lot. Like when I was Googling stuff, it was like, you know, a few blogs here and there that people had written.
Pretty limited though.
Yeah. And so I kind of didn't know what I was going into.
Right.
But yeah, so I go, they have their own separate housing and all this stuff. I lived with 7 other girls at the time. There were 8 of us in the one
sleepy, grumpy
apartment. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And it's funny because I actually wound up having 3 roommates, like different roommates, because there were 2 to a room. I wound up having 3 different girls in my in my particular room throughout the length of my program. I don't know if I'm just kidding. It wasn't me.
You?
No, the one girl, she didn't. Did I ever tell you this? The one girl didn't even make it the first day. She was there like half the day. I'm not trying to be mean.
You had to mention. You had to mention something about it. I'm sure when it happened, but
she was there, and I don't mean at the Grand. I just mean at.
Yeah,
on the college
Disney program
in general. I remember they were in the process. It was she was with her mom. They were in the process of bringing some of her stuff in. Both of them had like a mental breakdown about her doing all of this. And then I left because you and Mom were still there at the time.
Sad.
I think 'cause you guys came down with me to like help me settle and stuff. And I think we went out to get lunch or dinner or something. I remember I came back and all her stuff was gone. And I was like, room to myself. That's fine. But then the next day there was someone else in it. Obviously, they're very efficient there.
That's like sad. I feel sorry for that person.
I know,
because you think about what you missed out on.
Well, yeah, that's
I
true.
know it is. But that's the thing. There are so many things in life that are scary, right? Especially when even though it's college program, you're still younger technically.
Yeah, that age.
And it's like if you don't do those things, if every time you get a little bit scared, you're like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you'll never do anything.
You don't grow
fun.
as a person.
That's one thing. The program definitely. I mean, it forces you to kind of come out of your shell, and I think a lot of people that do it would agree with that because, you know, you're working and you can be introverted and stuff and like shy and all that, but I just feel like it has a way of, I don't know, opening you up and like, it's just good. It's a good experience. Everybody should do it. I say now before I get to the bad stories.
Okay.
But yeah, so the Grand was good. I'm trying to think of like specific examples from, I know what I could talk about with that. Well, okay, so I did work at Citric Coast. At first, I was just a host, like seating people and checking them in. But then I'm obviously really good at my job and people love me. So after like a month and a half, I was a CP, and CPs at the time, I don't know how the college program is CP. That's what they're called there. At the time, CPs did not do, some of them might be assigners, which an assigner at a restaurant is like the person that chooses which table you're going to go to. If you see people walking around with like an iPad at restaurants, that's the assigner. So some of the CPs would be an assigner, but at the time that I was there, they did not have CPs do the work with the money, like at the end of the night, balancing the drawers and all that stuff. They did not, but they loved me and I'm good at my job. So I was the first CP there that they let touch the money.
There's like a plaque on the wall back in the kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, and I actually, all this stuff is randomly coming back to me now because you remember I also, when I was there, won the quarterly award.
Yes, that's
like
right.
The best employee at the resort, which is like crazy
that's
for
amazing.
a CP, right?
I know.
Anyway.
Why are you not still there?
Dad, I have been trying to get back there my entire Disney career. It's
Seems
insane.
like you should be able to get back there easily.
I know. I haven't been trying that hard, and I'm not at Disney anymore.
Okay.
No, I actually, that's
Liar.
no, I am kind of lying because not recently. This was like 2 years ago, maybe. One of the servers messaged me and was like, no, this wasn't 2 years ago. This was when I was still at Disney. So this must have been when I was at Caribbean, texted me and said about like, you should message them. I didn't know the manager at the time. He was like, you should message the manager and like ask if you can work shifts here and stuff because we need people. And I was like, okay, I will. And then I did text the manager, but he never texted me back. So I was like, I don't know what to do here. And I just kind of gave up. So that's on me. And I probably could have done more to do that,
Seriously.
but I did not. And I'm sure not to be like this person, but if I wanted to, and I genuinely put in like 100% effort in doing that, I think that's something that I could do. But as we know, I have other priorities right now in life and I'm trying to do some other stuff. So anyway, so did that. But so my point is I went from a host and then I was assigning and then I was the GT, which is the money person, stands for general teller. So I'm doing all this stuff. And then I was also, they had me doing like the inventory for the wines then. That's mostly because the manager didn't feel like it, but putting it on me was like kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't even 21 at the time, so I don't even think that's really what you're supposed to. Anyway. So it was just a good experience all around. Loved all the people, not all the people. Loved 99% of the people I worked with, and it was just a really, really cool environment.
But plus it's cool when people give you credit, when people recognize your capabilities, right?
Exactly.
And give you responsibility that takes advantage of that.
Yes. And I got, I mean, it's technically 5 keys cards now, but I got a bunch of 4 keys cards when I was there, which 4 keys cards at Disney, now they're now 5 keys cards. Are recognition from either guests or managers for doing something well, pretty much. So I got a bunch of those. But working there was just cool. I like the people I work with. And then also you would get, I mean, in that kind of setting, you get a bunch of regulars coming in. So after like the first 2 months, maybe, because I worked there for a year. I extended my program, so I was there for a whole year. After the first 2 months, people would come in pretty much every day that I recognized. Like they recognized me and be like, how are you? How's the dog? Like, how are your kids? What's going on? And it was just like such a cool experience. And making those connections was just like, it was really fun. But so those kitchens, fun fact, the Citricos, yes, go ahead.
I feel like this is like a story that starts out happy. Like kind of like the beginning of Up, it shows them they're all happy. And then things get really bad.
Really dark, really quickly.
Yes, I'm waiting for that.
Well, we're not there yet. We're still in the happy period.
I'll get the tissues.
No. So the kitchens at Citricos and right next to it is Victoria and Albert's, which is like the fanciest restaurant Disney has. It's a whole thing.
5-star.
Those kitchens are connected. So I also had a really good relationship with the people that worked at Victoria and Albert's. I was cross-trained there, which means that I was able to work shifts there. I only wound up working a couple of shifts there. It's a whole thing. It's super intense.
Right,
but I did work there. I also worked at Narcoossee's, which is still at that resort, the restaurant. It's like right on the water. They did a brunch there for a while, and I was part of like the opening team for the brunch. That was super fun on Sundays only. And then I was also cross-trained at the Grand Floridian Cafe, which is right underneath the Citricos. And I worked a few shifts there. So I worked like pretty much all over the Grand, and it was just a lovely time. Amazing. Wonderful. So that was that. And then because that took place during my junior year of college, and I pretty much after that had the decision, because you remember at the end of my college program, they did offer me a job at Citricos, and I said no because I wanted to finish school. So this is, I'm 0 for 2 with the Grand here right now.
Yeah.
So I went back, I finished my senior year at Nova, and then I decided to do a second college program. So I came back, but this time I thought to myself, I've worked in restaurants my whole life because my first job was at Cracker Barrel when I was 15. I've worked in restaurants my whole life. I know what restaurants look like. I want to try something else. And so I didn't even apply for restaurants for the second college program. I applied for, I don't remember, attractions, merchandise, and something else. I don't remember what the last one was.
Not training, right? You wound up doing that.
Well, no, that was later.
That's what I mean.
But so long story short, I got attractions then for my second college program. Now, here maybe is where here's the thing, okay? Obviously, those are two completely different environments, especially when you look at like not just restaurants versus attractions, but the Grand Floridian versus attractions. They are like on two completely opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right.
With the quality of, that sounds really bad to say, like the quality of guests. Two completely. Oh, also.
The funny thing was I was going to ask you about that. But it relates back to one of your stories. So,
okay.
So just keep going.
Well, I forgot. I have to name drop a few things here because at the Grand Floridian, obviously famous people come in there because it's like, you know, the most expensive resort and all that stuff come to eat there. So just a few famous people that I got to see while I was there. Which one? The second Bush president. They sat in like our fancy room. I greeted him on the way in. That was it. That was the extent of my interaction with him.
That's so wild.
I know. And there are so many people that I'm sure I don't remember, but the main ones I remember are him, Jeffrey Zakarian, is that his name? Chef from Food Network, and he's like a judge on a bunch of stuff. He was awful. He was not nice. He was not like mean to me personally. I was just standing in the back.
Like
my best friend Noelle.
Demanding.
Yeah, she was the one that was like checking him in. And I guess we had his reservation, but it was for a later time or it was something or other. And he was like, well, we're getting sat now. And he literally just like starts walking in and we're just like, it was a whole thing. And he was not nice to the server. Anyway, that was an awful experience. And that was disappointing because I really love Food Network and like watching all the shows. So now anytime I see a show with him in it, I'm like, oh, you're so not nice. And I hate that.
I would advertise that everywhere I could.
Well, here we are.
Would.
I'm advertising it to my 16 listeners on this podcast right now.
Represented are in millions. Go ahead.
Yes. Third one that I can remember in this moment, Paul Rudd. We all know him, famous movie star. He was such a sweetheart. He was so nice when he came in, so nice to all of the staff. I gave him his dessert. I put it right down in front of him, and he literally turned and looked at me and said, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "You're so welcome." And it was a whole thing. It wasn't a whole thing. That was it. That was the story. For me, it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
For him, he doesn't even remember that moment. For me, that's like, it was a really great moment in my Disney experience.
That's wild.
Anyway, I know. So he was so nice. Nicest guy. So anyway, if I think of other ones, I'll say. So I get attractions for my second college program. And I actually got, the role that I got was at Toy Story Mania at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I was extremely excited for this because Toy Story is one of my favorite movies. So that was nice. And then as a ride, Toy Story Mania, also love it in general. So I was very, very excited. I don't know. Do you guys remember like me being super excited about this? Yeah. Actually, I didn't even, because when you get your assignment, at the time, when you get your assignment for the college program, they just tell you the park that you're in and then the zone that you're in. So I didn't even know. At the time, it was called something South. So all I see is like, you got attractions and your thing is whatever South. And I'm like, what does that mean? And so this is what I'm talking about. You try to Google that in like, so at this point, it's in 2017. I'm trying to Google Hollywood Studios attractions, whatever South, which is just the name that they have, like that Disney has, not that guests have for this.
Right.
Nothing's coming up. I have no idea where this is. Okay. So finally.
So you don't even have a guess at what ride you're going to be, what attraction you're going to be at?
No.
Okay.
I remember. Because keep in mind, so my favorite ride is Rock and Roller Coaster. Well, maybe not anymore since they're theming it to the Muppets. That's super sad. I really wanted to get that one. But so I'm trying to figure out where would South be and all this stuff. So in my head, I'm like, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. I'm hoping it's not Muppets. Not because I don't like Muppets, but because like a stage show I just felt would be really boring to do. So, but yeah, so anyway, it was Toy Story Mania. I get there. Well, yeah, probably. I probably would have. I get there. This may be a 3-part episode. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I'm saying a lot of stuff right now. And I hope this is exciting for people. And if it's
interesting,
not,
it's interesting for me.
I know, but I just feel like I should leave room for you to comment more while I'm telling this, but there's nothing to say at this point, I guess.
I'll interject when I...
Okay.
Believe me, we'll get...
I know.
We'll get to that part.
Where are we? So Toy Story Mania. I loved Toy Story Mania. Working there, working in attractions. I loved working in attractions. like the different positions that you have to, for most of them, you have to use your brain a lot, which is really nice. There's not, especially with like more popular rides like Toy Story Mania, there's not a lot of downtime. It's pretty busy. So like, and I am a fast-paced environment type of person, so I loved that.
So just really quickly,
Yes.
since we've already sort of decided this is going to wind up being like a 4-part episode. When you say
This
you
is
have
just the
to
rest
use-
of our podcast.
I know. Yeah. This is our spinoff. The sister podcast. Now, if when you say you have to use your brain,
Yes.
explain that. Like, explain why for attractions, like an example of,
Well, okay.
like I remember you talking. Go ahead, because if you don't remember,
go ahead.
Well, like when people are in line and you haven't.
And yeah, okay, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
So for comparison purposes, which, obviously, people that work in restaurants, there are different levels of things, right? So if you're a seater at a restaurant, all you have to do is know the table that you're going to and know how many menus you need, right? It's very, you don't have to think. I'm not being mean.
Right.
I've been a seater, I've been a host. Like, you don't have to think. You just take what you're given.
Right.
You go to the table, you return to the podium. That's it.
Right.
If you're the assigner, you have to think, because then you have to decide where people go on tables. You have to do math and stuff. But for attractions, with the different positions, they have people outside. They have people that are on Fast Pass. They have people that are doing like with guests in wheelchairs. We have special vehicles everywhere for them. So there are like a ton of different positions. My favorite position is called grouper, which is what you're talking about, I'm pretty sure, which is
Isn't that a fish?
Yes, it is. I don't have another joke. I thought maybe I could say something. I got nothing. Thank you. So that position, you have, it's when you get to the front of the line at a ride, and it's the person that puts you in like the line right before you get in the car or whatever the vehicle is. The person you get to at the
What
front
row
of the line.
you're in, basically, in
Yes,
the car.
the person that says, "Hi, how many in your party?" And you say 2, and they say, "Row 3, please." That's grouper. Okay. That is my favorite position, because you have to, especially for fast-paced rides, and like you want to get people through quickly, you have to do math in your head pretty quickly. And you have to like figure out what is going to be, as we all know, I love efficiency. It's my favorite thing. You have to figure out what is going to be the most efficient way to get all of the people on in your line, and to like move this line as quickly as possible.
And not have a lot empty cars or anything.
Exactly. So for example, at Toy Story Mania, I mean, they have different tracks, but for the main track, I'm pretty sure there are, if I'm remembering correctly, there are 8 rows. Maybe it's 12. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Let's say there are 12 rows. Okay. So, and they do 2, like 4 per vehicle, but 2 per row. So you have 12 rows, and you need 2 people in each of those rows, right, to get on the car. So if there's like a group of 3, and this is a lot of information. This isn't a ride that you have single rider, so you're going to have holes. If you have 3 people, you're going to have 2 people in row 1, 1 person in row 2, so they're in the same car, right? So that's done. You're missing a seat, but that's not your fault. You can't do anything about that, right? Where you lose it, like when you're bad at grouper, is when you start sending like a whole row empty or a whole car empty, God forbid, on like a busy ride. That's not good. And most times, if you're bad at grouper, they just like won't rotate you there. Like they'll figure out a way to, like the coordinators will, the supervisors, they'll figure out a way so that you don't go to that position, because you're not good at it and we need to get people through quickly. And actually, I remember when I was learning grouper, because this is my first experience with this, and I don't know what I'm doing, nothing, okay? I remember my trainer, Casey, God love him. He was an excellent trainer, had a great time with him. Nothing bad to say about the man. We get to grouper, and he basically, this is busy. It's during the day. You don't learn this like on an iPad. You learn this in real time with real guests waiting right in front of you. And we get up to take whoever the guy was that had been doing grouper, and Casey comes up and he's like, "Hey, we're taking over grouper." And the guy goes, "Okay, well, it's kind of a mess right now, so let me fix it." And Casey goes, "No, that's okay. She'll be fine." And I was like, "What do you mean? I don't even know what this is." And he was like, "You'll be fine." And I was like, "No, I won't." And so he moves the guy out of the way and like pushes me in front. He's like, "Go ahead." I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not doing this. And he was like, "You're just going to send these empty?" Because the way the guy before me had it, it was like, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it was like 2, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1, 2. Like it was an absolute mess. Okay, with how the rows were, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna wait until this gets down to a spot that I understand what it looks like, because I don't. And so I don't. Maybe like I don't know. Only like one cycle of cars wound up going partially empty. Like maybe half of them were empty, which is bad, right? But I've never done this before. So Casey's like next to me. He's like, "Are you really just gonna let these go empty?" I was like, "Are you really not gonna teach me how to group?" And then so I turn back when they're like at a manageable thing where you only have like 1 or 2 people in a couple rows. And I'm like, okay, now I can look and see that the math makes sense to me. And you also do in that position, they give you like, before they actually send you up there, they have like, I mean, I don't know how they do it now. Maybe they do it on an iPad now or something, but it was just on like a poster board that they have this laid out and they show it to you. This is what grouper looks like. If you get a party of 2 that comes up, row 1. If you get a party of 3 that comes up, rows 3 and 4. You know what I mean? But it's so much different when you're actually there, obviously. Okay. So I wait until it's down to a manageable point, and then once I can understand the math in my head, I'm like, okay, let's go. 2, row 1, whatever. Okay, so then I go. And I just remember that because the rest of my training and the rest of my time there, he told everyone that story. He told everyone that I was his favorite trainee because I told him, no, I will not group people until it's at a manageable point. And he was like, it was hilarious. No one's ever told me no before. And I was like, well, first time for everything, I guess. So yeah, that was a fun one. So that was a great time at Toy Story Mania. Regrettably, my time there was very short-lived because what had happened was... What?
This is when everything goes south.
I think
this is like a story, like I said, where you're at your high point, and just when everything's going great...
Yeah. Done.
To
make this clear, when you're a CP, you don't... there's no good way to say this. You don't, and maybe it's different now. I don't know. You don't really matter when you're a CP. You don't have any rights. You don't, I mean, regularly I was working 80-hour weeks because they don't have to pay you overtime as a CP. Maybe that's different now. I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I never, no, 80-hour weeks, no overtime.
So you just
and I'm
get
not
paid
exaggerating,
the
80-hour
standard,
weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which the funny thing is, probably some people, not everybody obviously, but probably some people just loved it because they wanted to work all the hours they could.
Yeah.
And just make all the
that
money
was me.
that
I
could.
picked up at pretty much every shift I could pick up, I picked up.
Yeah.
So it's not that I minded working, but it's the, they just don't really care about your well-being is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's different now. I don't know. But at that time, they would schedule me 6 days a week, 14-hour shifts every day. And it's just like, well, this is your life now. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's why I'm here. So what the heck? I didn't actually want to enjoy myself at all. So that's nice.
Yeah.
So
somehow Disney seemed a lot more fun when I was coming here.
Yes.
And not having to work.
That's something, because a lot of people ask me now, like, having worked for Disney, is the magic ruined for you? And I don't think... The magic is definitely not ruined or anything like that. I personally feel like I ruin the magic for other people because I know so many like backstage secrets and things that I feel the need to share with people. Like, right behind that door is
I mean, yeah, sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, I don't know. I was going to say something clever, but I got nothing.
No, I was going to say, but
is Walt Disney's head is right behind that door.
Yeah, right. Don't open the door because you'll let the cold out.
Yeah.
Its head will thaw.
Exactly.
Don't you, in a way, though, feel like it kind of, not that the magic, okay, it doesn't take away the magic. You realize all the work that goes into creating the magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Because some of the good stories you have.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give a preview of the good ones. Hopefully this will end on a good note. But that will come after we hit rock bottom.
Yeah. Nowhere to go but up after that. So all of that to say, what had happened was I was at Toy Story Mania for a month. I went through 3 weeks of training. I was in my first real week as a person, like going through rotation and everything. And I get the news, my manager pulled me to the side and said that I was being force transferred to Pandora, the world of Avatar at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Because what had happened was they had just opened. This is in 2017, right when Pandora first opened. And they did not have enough people. So pretty much when you do, I don't know how they do it now, at the time, did not have CPs for openings. So like a restaurant opening, a ride opening, there were no CPs on any of those teams because, you know, it's like a serious thing and you want real cast members and all this stuff. So they didn't have any CPs when Pandora opened and they were severely understaffed. So they brought in, I was part of, well, technically, so there are the two rides in Pandora. You have Navi River Journey, which is a boat ride. And then you have Avatar Flight of Passage, which is a 3D flying simulator. So they brought in, force transferred from other attractions, 4 CPs per ride. Okay. So I got force transferred to Navi River Journey first. I wound up cross-training at Flight of Passage later. And I was very upset about this. I was very upset because I really loved Toy Story Mania and I really loved the people that I worked with. And I did not understand why I did not have a say in this decision. I just wanted to stay where I was placed and live my life.
It's almost like if you're a priest and the bishop is telling you you're going to a different parish.
Yes, well, maybe. The nice thing was one of the other girls that transferred with me from or to Pandora, she also worked at Toy Story Mania, so I actually knew her before we moved over.
Yeah,
and like, yeah, so we were friends and all that stuff. So that was nice. So I think what annoyed me going into Pandora, besides the fact that I really didn't want to leave Toy Story Mania, what annoyed me going into Pandora, and I don't know, this was also just a weird time in my personal life as well. There's a lot going on, and this definitely affected all of that. I, to be completely fair, went into Pandora with a negative attitude. I did not want to be there. I was annoyed at everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember I get there and I'm training and everybody is trying to teach me the language that you're supposed to speak and talking about the history of the avatars and all this. I've never seen Avatar. To this day, I have not seen any Avatar movies and I will never. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to. Okay. And there's no need for 7 or 8 different avatars. There's just not. Anyway. Yeah. I'm just annoyed by everyone around me being so gung-ho about Pandora and just not wanting to be there. So my attitude, I'm sure, affected the entire time I was there. I wound up being there for a whole year as well. Okay. I have plenty of wonderful stories, I'm sure. Can I remember a lot of them at the moment? No. But, actually, it's not even true. I can remember a few of them. So.
No, you're supposed to save the good stories till last.
Oh, are we ending with the good stories?
No. Yes, we're ending with the good stories.
So that we leave on a happy note?
Yes. Talk about the bad stuff. People are dying waiting for the bad stuff.
Okay, well, let me start this. No, I'm not going to cry. Let me start this by saying I'm going to go with the, for you.
Yeah.
With the famous people that I saw in Pandora, because there were so many people in Pandora because it had just opened and a ton of people. Ariana Grande came through with like a whole posse and they all had like different colored wigs on and everything. And we were all like, if you're trying not to stand out, you're wearing a pink wig.
As if they didn't want to stand out.
Yeah. So I remember that one. I remember Chris Evans came through. And regrettably, he was also not very nice. But his brother, he went through with like, I don't know, maybe some more of his family, but his brother was there. And his brother was so nice and stood there at the end of the ride and talked to a couple of us for a few minutes. He was super nice. Chris Evans, cool. Not so much, unfortunately.
What was not nice about it? Like
he was just very short, like didn't really...
Yeah.
Peasants. I don't have time for you peasants, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And just like kind of blowing off people that were not his immediate party.
Yeah.
He wasn't rude. He just wasn't overly nice.
Okay, so it wasn't as bad as who was
Jeffrey Zakarian.
Oh, yeah.
No, he wasn't. Dinkelberg. So I hate it here. So who else? Katy Perry, I think, but I didn't actually see her. She was over on the other side when I wasn't working there. That's all I remember right now. Maybe I'll try to think of more. Anyway. So you want me to tell bad stories? Is that the whole point of
Yeah,
this?
well, that's how this. I really wanted to get right to the bad.
Okay,
stories.
all right, fine. So a few bad stories. Maybe I will cry. I'm feeling a little triggered right now.
Okay, tissues.
So how this works is when Pandora
Save the worst one for last.
Which one's the worst one?
Only you can. The truth is deep inside.
No, I'm not doing that. Because I'm just going to go in order of how I think of them. Because I think this story is the worst story that I'm about to tell right now.
Okay.
But you've all waited long enough for a bad story today. So here we are. Okay, this is what I was going to say. When Pandora first opened, it had, and maybe it still does now, like on holidays and stuff, it regularly had an 8-hour wait for Flight of Passage.
Insane.
Regularly. And that was not an exaggerated wait time. I will say Disney sometimes does inflate the wait times depending on the time of day and different factors. That wait time was never exaggerated. That line went all through the building, all outside, all through the land, and especially in the mornings, wrapped all the way like halfway through Africa in Animal Kingdom. This was an 8-hour line.
You think about that. I don't get that. Unless you have an annual pass and you decided, well, I'm going to spend 8 hours just waiting in line for this new ride.
Why would you do it? I don't know. But here's the thing, so this is an 8-hour ride, or an 8-hour line, an 8-hour
that's why
ride.
it's an 8-hour
That's
ride.
why.
I mean, I would wait 8 hours for an 8-hour ride.
People, when they would be complaining about this, so at Disney has the standby line, which is 8 hours for Flight of Passage, and then they have the Fast Pass line, which now it's a paid system. At the time, the Lightning Lane. At the time that I worked there, it was not even a paid system. So let me clarify that.
Yep.
At the time, it was still just the regular. This is before even Genie Plus and all that.
Yeah.
It was just regular Fast Pass. You went on your phone, you booked the rides that you wanted, whatever. You could only do a couple a day and all that.
It's like people were equal. Everyone had the right.
Back when people were
serfs.
equal. Yeah.
Yes. The plebes could.
The plebes.
Yeah.
So
little people.
If you planned properly, you could get a Fast Pass for this ride.
Mm-hmm.
They only have a very limited number of Fast Passes, and you would have to be on your phone, whatever. Anyway, you have to do really good planning in order to get a Fast Pass for this, right? But it's possible. And it's available to everybody at this time, okay? Same for any of the rides. So also Navi River Journey, which is where I'm working at the time that this story I'm telling is about to happen. When people would come to me, because one of the positions in attractions is the Fast Pass person. So you stand at the podium, people come up, they say, I have a Fast Pass for this ride. They scan their magic bands or their cards. If it goes green, then they're good and they can go through. If it goes blue, that means there's something wrong and I can fix it or I can't. Those are the options, right? And so people would say to me that, because you obviously, especially in this situation, the way I always felt about it, because I was cross-trained at Flight of Passage maybe halfway through my time there, especially for Flight of Passage, if people are actually waiting in this 8-hour line. And this line, they had bathroom passes. Partway through, they would give you a lanyard and stuff because this line is so long that it's you have to go to the bathroom, take this lanyard, go to the bathroom, come back, and you can come back right here. It was a whole thing, okay? I always felt people are actually waiting in this line for 8 hours. Whether or not I agree that that's a good idea is neither here nor there. People are waiting in this line for 8 hours. If you have a Fast Pass, come on through. If you don't have a Fast Pass and you just want to sneak in because you don't feel like waiting 8 hours, that's not fair. And people are actually waiting 8 hours for this ride.
Yeah, it's not fair to all those people.
No. Or for the Navi River Journey, people are waiting 2 hours for this.
Right.
It's not fair for you to be give me, I'm not trying to be mean here, give me a sob story. You're having an awful day. You just came to Disney to ride this one ride and blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh. For argument's sake, if you just came to Disney to ride this one ride, then you wouldn't mind waiting 8 hours in a line for it.
Yeah.
It's the only ride you wanted to ride. Go ahead.
Or for argument's sake, all these people in this line waiting 8 hours or 2 hours, whatever it is, also wanted to just come for this one ride. So anyway.
Exactly. We're all here for the same thing. Yeah. You're not special, pretty much, is what it comes down to. Again, not to be mean, I'm just being honest, okay? And so anytime I was Fast Pass, and let me make it clear, there were people like my friend Lily, she loved getting Fast Pass because she loved, and my friend Ishvan, he still works in Pandora, he loved getting Fast Pass because he loved telling people no. They would come up, they would not have it, and he'd be like, no, you don't have it. And they would try to start explaining a story. He's like, you do not have it. Please step to the side. Next person. Done. Okay. I'm not that person. I'm just not that person.
See, that's awesome.
I'm an easy
that's
target.
How you have to do
I know.
it.
I love him.
Like you try to be understanding is your point.
Well, yeah, especially in the beginning before I realized how mean people were. Because let me make it clear. I worked for, the month that I was in Toy Story. I worked Fast Pass a few times. I did not have awful experiences there.
Yeah.
I had a few that were like, couldn't understand why they couldn't come in 2 hours early or something like that.
Yeah.
But nobody that was mean to me, which is a big difference. Okay.
Right.
So in Pandora, anytime I got Fast Pass, I hated it. I hated it. I got chills. I was like freaking out. I was like, I don't want to do this. People are going to yell at me. I'm going to cry. It's going to be a whole thing. Okay. This was me. Anytime I got Fast Pass, I always asked people to switch with me because I did not want this position. All right. Regardless, there were obviously still times that I had to work this position.
Yep.
This is one of those times. So what had happened was, I wish we would have told the good stories first. My heart is beating so fast right now thinking about this.
You just did kind of go through some good stories.
No, I didn't.
Though.
Anyway, Paul Rudd. I just got to keep thinking
saying,
about
not
Paul Rudd.
Specific stories, but your overall experience, good things. So anyway, go ahead.
So what had happened
you have
was
to end on the good story.
I am working Fast Pass at Navi River Journey, and this family of, 8 people? It was 7 or 8 people.
Something like that,
comes up to me. Oh, and also I should say, you and Mom, God bless your souls, because every day after work, I would call them on the way home crying about whatever awful thing had happened that day.
Yep.
They have heard me cry. I don't even know. Every single day I was crying about something.
It was a lot of days, put it that way. It probably seems like every single day.
It felt like every day.
And it was a lot of days. And I would get so mad just hearing you tell us this.
Well.
So go ahead.
So anyway, 7 people, and they come up and they have 1 Fast Pass. Like 1 member of their family has Fast Pass. My heart is beating so fast right now still thinking about this because I can picture myself in this situation.
That's insane.
They have 1 Fast Pass, 7 people. I'm at Navi River Journey. We have a 2-hour wait for the standby line. I say, you have 1 Fast Pass, so you all cannot come through. And then a few other of them scan their magic bands, and I see they also have 1 Fast Pass for Flight of Passage. So it's one of those families that's trying to, they thought they
game
could do.
The system.
Yes, they thought, because here's the thing, at Disney, I'm just being honest, if you have, I don't know, depending on the ride, depending on the time of day, if you have 4 people in your group and 3 people have a Fast Pass, they're going to let the 4th person through.
Right.
They're not monsters. They're, we're all here for a good time.
Right. And the sad thing is, okay, there are cases where it's not somebody trying to play games, right?
Right.
They legit just for some reason the one doesn't, and it's fine. But that there are people that always they know that
there
right?
are,
and they
like
try to stretch.
People.
They try to stretch. They're bad people, literally. But anyway, so continue.
So I explain this to them. I say you have 1 Fast Pass for this, and you have maybe it was more. It might have been 3 Fast Passes for Flight of Passage, but they definitely only had 1 Fast Pass for Navi. And I explained to them, you have 1 Fast Pass for here, and you have a couple for Flight of Passage. And they're just standing there looking at me, and I'm like, so one of you can go through. And it happened to be the one person in their group that had a Fast Pass was like the 5-year-old boy. Okay. And so the mom's like, what, you're going to make him go on this ride alone? And so I'm like, you're right. I'm not a monster. Go ahead. You go with him. The 2 of you go ride this ride. Okay. Yeah. This is everybody.
So you're already doing more. You're already doing more than you have to do.
Than I should be doing. And mind you, especially at this ride, the line, the standby and the Fast Pass, I am directly in the middle. I'm sandwiched in the middle of the standby and the Fast Pass line. Okay. So I have in this group of people that are next to me in standby, I have 20 standby people right now that are watching this interaction.
Yep.
That are about to see, potentially me let in 6 people that don't have fast passes when they've been standing here for an hour already.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm in my head, I'm like, I cannot let all of you through. This is not fair to these people. And it's just not, this is my job. I'm doing my job, whatever.
You probably have multiple things going through your head. Like, obviously, you knew it wouldn't be right, but also you knew these people would see this and then they would be angry at you.
And it'd be a whole thing. Okay.
Right. Which in that case, by the way, if I was in that other line, I would be glaring at these people, being like, if we can wait here, you could wait here. You're not better than us.
Yeah. And I want to make it really clear. I loved, and we'll get to some good stories later, I loved, quote unquote, making magic, which is what they call when you just do a random nice thing for people. Randomly, if I was there like on another time, another day, and I was talking to people in the standby line, they were super nice, super whatever, I'd let them through Fast Pass, the whole family, 4 or 5 people. You don't have Fast Passes, go through Fast Pass. I hope you guys have a great day. This is not me like trying to be a jerk and trying to be like a dictator over here of the Fast Pass line. Right. That was not me at all. I loved making people happy. Mm-hmm. I do not love making jerks happy. Yes. That is not my life mission.
Exactly.
Okay? You're nice to, and this goes for anything in life. This is how I feel. If you are nice to me, have whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Literally whatever you want if you're nice. Mm-hmm. If you come up here and you're a jerk and you're demanding and entitled and privileged, no. Yes. The answer is no. Okay? So anyway, just thinking about this and talking about it like this makes me so much more heated about this particular story.
Oh, I'm getting mad. That's what I mean.
Because you know which one this is.
Go along with this. Yes.
So I wonder how long I've been talking now. Should this be?
This is going to be.
I think this might be the cliffhanger into part 2.
Well, this will be the going into next season. This will be our last episode of this season.
All right, we'll see you next season.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I said it was fake. But I'm laughing because I just went on to the 3rd one and I don't want to read this.
Let's skip that one.
No, I don't want to read this though.
Read it.
It's gross.
Okay. I won't. Okay, go.
I don't want to.
Should we give people a warning if they're eating right now?
Yeah, please. If you're eating, stop eating. This is so gross.
Or pause this until you're done.
Pause it and come back to it. Or don't come back to it, honestly. Finished. A roast is done. Yeah. Okay.